Hello, dear viewers. This is Bayo Mishra, international chess coach, welcoming you all on behalf of Premier Chess Academy to the analysis series on FIDE candidates that is going to happen on April 3rd on Toronto in Canada. And we are going to look at the games from round two. As we all know, round one, all the games ended in a draw. So round two had a very interesting results that all the four games that happened in round two have decisive results. So we are going to look at the games of Vidit Gujrathi versus Hikaru Nakamura and the games of Pragnananda versus Gujrathi. So let's dive into the first game that we're going to analyze. It is between Vidit Gujrathi and Hikaru Nakamura. So here we're going to look at the game where Hikaru Nakamura is white and Vidit Gujrathi is black. So the game started with one e4 and Vidit replied with the move e5. Very natural. As we all know, Vidit Gujrathi plays this e4, e5 opening. Usually he goes for the e4, c5 in most of his games and when goes for the nice draw. But in his recent games, if you followed his games from 2023, he is opting for the royal pace and mostly is trying this line. So white naturally prepared this opening, I guess. Nakamura went for knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5, which is the main line in the royal pace. And I think white was very well prepared in the opening. I don't think that white had any doubt that he wanted to change any kind of opening here, because I think Vidit has been playing this for the last year, and I think Nakamura is very well prepared. And I think Nakamura thought that he might out prepare Vidit in this opening. So Vidit went knight f6, the Berlin variation, d3. Okay, here usually what white players do, usually they don't play this move d3. This move is like considered a sideline in the Berlin variation. Usually, this is not the main line in Berlin. Usually, what white does, white takes, bishop takes on c6, d captures on c6, and usually now in this kind of lines, the e5 pawn is a weakness here, and usually white opts for this kind of line like castles, and maybe black plays knight takes on e4, and like some kind of lines like rook e1, knight d6, knight e5, bishop e7 could be played, or another, the main line in the Berlin would like start with direct castle. Direct castle, and here black goes knight e4, rook e1, knight to d6, which is the main line. Bishop takes on c6, and d takes on c6, and then knight e5. Or else, even in some lines, here white usually takes, and opts for the move d4. And this is also interesting, and white gets into good positions in these lines. So we'll go back to the game where white played d3. Now bishop c5. This is the main line. In some ways, black can also go for the move d6 here. It transposes to a very different line in the Philidor, and I think even many good grandmasters like Narayan Srinath and even Vidit Gujrathi himself have tried this line. So d6, then I think c3, bishop d7 in some lines, or maybe bishop d7, castles, a6, sorry, bishop a4. And after bishop a4, g6, rook e1, bishop g7, d4, b5, bishop b3, castle. It's very popular in nowadays right now. So we will go into the game. After d3, the move bishop c5 was played. This is the main line, bishop c5, c3. Very interesting and very natural, because white wants to opt for the move d4 here and wants to immediately strike back in the center, which is very natural in these lines. Black castled. As we all know, castling is very important in this kind of lines because the whole play revolves around the center. So once we castle, the king is out of the center and we can really deal with the position. So castle, castle, d6. And this is where the interesting part of the game starts. h3. Very nice, very accurate, and very precise. To all the viewers who are watching this video, I would recommend that this move should be played, and it should be played at the very first choice, because if we are opting for the move d4 immediately here, I would say this bishop g4 is a very nasty idea in some of the lines, and the d4 pawn will be weak. So I will not dive into the whole theory here with immediate d4 because it will take a lot of time to analyze all the lines in the move d4. But to all my viewers, you can still go through this d4 idea and you'll still find out that how h3 would be useful for you. So h3 is a very accurate move by Hikaru Nakamura, and I think Nakamura was still in his preparation here. Knight e7, very precise by Vidit, not allowing bishop c6. And also the knight heads for the g6 square. From here, it can target the f4 and h4 squares. Very natural in these lines. White immediately breaks in the center with d4, c6. I think here, with it starts his preparation. I think he was very well prepared for this choice. I think the main line here is bishop b6. And I think this is the main variation here. Bishop b6, d takes e5, d takes e5. And white usually opts for knight e5. But in these lines like queen takes on d1, rook takes on d1, knight e4, the f2 pawn is really weak. So that's why I guess maybe, I don't know really why Nakamura opted or why Vidit opted for this move c6, because this is a sort of novelty here. It's a novelty in this position, and after c6, bishop d3, bishop b6, very similar to what we saw, but here in this line takes, knight e5, you don't have this knight e4 idea now. But I would like all my viewers, let's have a pause and let's think what is the best move here for black. So all the viewers who found out the move bishop takes on h3, congratulations, you have found the best move here. I think this is one of the brilliant preparations of Vidit for the candidates. I think if anyone is going to try this line at the club level or even at the highest level, I think he or she should be prepared for this bishop into h3, because it's a brilliant idea by Vidit. Brilliant idea. Because the problem is that in this line, if you take on h3, which Nakamura did not do, the idea is black goes for queen b8, not queen c7. Guys, this is wrong, completely wrong. It's a blunder. You're hitting the knight in g3 square, but after bishop f4, you have no way of putting pressure on this knight. So queen b8 is the best move here. Why? Because now after bishop f4, we have this c7 square free for the bishop. And now there's no way for white to save this knight. Bishop g3 takes on e5, f4, bishop c7, and after bishop c2, queen to c8 hitting on h3. You could see white pawns are completely weak, and after king g2, queen e8, idea is to hit the e4 pawn and get knight g6. White, I think black is doing brilliant here with rook d8 coming next. So I guess that was black's idea in this position. So after bishop s3, Nakamura did avoid this. Nakamura went for knight c4, which is a mistake in this position actually. And it's not actually right. And with it went bishop g4, very nice move. Hitting the queen, getting the tempo, saving the bishop, queen c2, bishop c7, keeping an eye on the h2 square. And as you could see, both these bishops and all the knights are hitting on the king. And the most important point that like black should pay attention is that the white pieces are not developed on the queen side. White went e5, very nice idea. It's tempting, forcing, and to some extent it's needed in this position. e5 is a good move here. It hits a knight on f6, it's supported by the c4, knight the e5 pawn. and also it blocks the bishop. But the main problem here is that after knight d7, now the e5 pawn is a real target. I don't think there's any way to protect it. White went bishop h7, the most forcing answer. But now the problem is white pieces are not coordinated. It's a forcing line, so there's not much to analyze. King h8 is forced. Bishop d3, b5. Very nice move by Vidit. I think he's very well prepared. Throughout the whole theory or the whole variation, I think the preparation of Vidit is hats off. We need to accept that Vidit is much more well prepared than Hikaru Nakamura here. And we are talking about world number 2, guys, behind Caruana. So we should give some respect to Vidit here because his preparation is absolutely brilliant. A b5, hitting the knight on c4, and I think knight e3, knight into e5. Another brilliant move by Vidit, supporting the bishop and getting the d7 knight in the game. And not only that, but he's also hitting the bishop on d3. So in this position, I think knight g4 is forced, which should have been played, but it's not played in the game, guys. Knight g4 was needed. I think it was not played. And after knight g4, I think white still does really good, knight g4. But white went for the move. Bishop e2. f5. A beautiful idea because we have some chances of rifting the rook to f6 and getting into h6. Ending on the h6 square. So this could have been done, but not really. After knight g4, f g4, queen e4, queen d7, position is still equal, but in this position, white actually made the biggest mistake, or you could say this is a decisive blunder that really resulted for the game. I think white opted for f4, thinking that he could hit the knight on e5. That's very well placed in the center. And once the knight moves, I think black attacks fades out. I would like all my viewers to pause here and try to please think and figure out what's the best move here for black. If you all could find out the best move here for black, I think you almost very much in the game. So let's go, guys. Let's try to think how the game span out here. So in this position, if you all found out bishop b6, hats off. Very nice intermediate move instead of saving the knight. Black understands that the more important thing is hitting on the white king, and he's very much quick on that. After king f2, knight d5, black is not at all worried about his e4 knight, but black keeps on pressurizing the e3 knight. Rook h1 check, king g8, pawn takes knight, but black understands that he has the move queen g5, and after this the e3 knight falls, and with that I think white position completely collapses here, because once the e3 knight falls, I think there's not much in the game. The fate rook could ultimately come in the game and white king is stuck. So white went king e1, black takes, bishop g4, f takes, queen takes g4. I think f takes g4 is also good. Not much problem with that. Knight e3 hitting the queen and hitting the g2 pawn. And after queen e2, as we all know, when the kings are in the middle of the board, we should not trade queens. So queen g3 check, king d2, rook d8, king c1, and black simply played queen g5. A very interesting idea. Whenever we have the tactics, pieces in one line and hanging pieces always helps us. So always remember, guys, whenever we are doing any tactical combinations like double attack, fork, pin, discover attack, you would see there are two basic elements to it. One, all the pieces are in one line, and you could also see that there are hanging pieces in the position. And after this, b3 was played, but after knight f1, white resigned because now black could do knight g3 next, which is a double attack. And I think white has no way to stop the material loss. And I think after this material loss, white has no compensation for it. So I think in this position, Nakamura rightly resigned. At the highest level, there's no point of playing this position actually. But hats off to Vidit. And also, as we know, it's a very interesting game between Pragnananda and Gukeshji that we are going to look forward in the next video. So time's up for this round, guys. See you in the next video in the game of Pragnananda and Gukeshji. Hope you all love this video, and bye-bye. Take care, and subscribe to our channel, and watch our next video between Pragnananda and Gukeshji. Bye-bye, guys.